What's up, everybody? Brandon R. Scarborough here. I want to take a moment to share with you and tell you about my dream, my passion, ultimately my purpose. Dreams Academy is our nonprofit organization located in Akron, Ohio, where we specialize in mentoring young men of color. I started Dreams Academy in 2016, and since then, we've had the opportunity to impact and mentor over 300 young men in our area. I want to tell you about this because it's dear to me, it's near to me, and so I want to tell you how you can support. Go to our website and see what we're doing, www.dreamsacademyonline.org. Also, when you get to our website, be sure to visit our Queens Academy page. We launched Queens Academy so that we can start having the same impact with young women of color in the summer of 2021. It's been a great journey, and we look forward to impacting more and more young people. We need your help. Consider today making a donation to Dreams Academy so that we can keep impacting more and more young people. You can give online right at our website. You can give through Cash App, Dreams Academy. You can also text to give by texting DREAMS to 44321. If you are unable to donate now, that's completely fine. We still want to connect with you. Visit us on Instagram at Dreams Academy USA and Queens Academy USA. You can join us on Facebook at Dreams Academy and Queens Academy, or go to our website and fill out the Contact Us form and leave us your email address so we can add you to our email list so that you will get our newsletter so you can stay up to date with everything that's happening with our organization. Whatever you decide to do, however you connect with us, we're grateful for the connection. Thank you so much in advance for your support. What's up, everybody? Brandon R. Scarborough here. Welcome to another episode of Dear White Teacher. We hope you've been enjoying the episodes. I think this is episode 7, and so we're on a great run. We've had a lot of great guests, and we are back tonight with another one. I want to introduce to you my friend, longtime friend for many years, longtime educator, Miss Cheree Bell. What's happening?
Nothing much. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. We got a lot to talk about. Tell them who you are, where you're from, what you do, and then we kind of segue from there and tell them why you're here and how you can lend to the discussion.
All right. Well, my name is Cheree Bell. I am originally from Akron, Ohio, currently residing in Atlanta, Georgia. I attended the best high school in Akron, Ohio, Firestone, and then went on to attend.
My real listeners know, they know already, so they're not going to buy into that.
And then I went on to attend Mount Union College in Alliance, Ohio, majoring in education. And so here I am 20 years later. I've been in the classroom. I am a language arts teacher. I am a professional development coordinator, as well as a mentor teacher. And so I'm excited to see what we have to talk about today.
Cool. So we have a lot of connections starting back. At Mount Union. I won't tell all of his business, but her older brother was my roommate 3 or 4 years that we were at Mount Union, and I didn't see him much, and I'll just leave it at that. He was busy.
Right.
But then she came on campus a year or two later, and then we've been cool ever since and have watched each other grow in adulthood, and so I've gotten to see and learn about her teaching journey, and so let's jump into how you even got started teaching, or what the vision was, even maybe when you were back at Mount. Like, did you think, that's what you wanted to do?
Actually, before I even got at Mount, went to Mount Union, I've always wanted to be a teacher. So when I was growing up, I used to always play teacher. That's literally the only thing I would ever do. My mom always talked about how I would walk around the house with my pen and pencil, and I would always be writing. I took my dolls along with my cars because I was a tomboy as well. And
I would. You got the teacher look going today, like you just stepped out of class 2 minutes ago.
But I would take those things, and those were my students, and I would pretend to teach. And so I remember when I was getting ready to go to Mount Union, my dad said, "Cheree, you need to be a teacher. This is all you ever do." And so here I am, a teacher 20 years later.
So you've spent the majority of your teaching time in Georgia. Did you ever, well, I know you taught here because we was, interesting story, we were at a school together way back in, I think that was 2005 maybe. We taught at Emmanuel Christian Academy, which is a amazing school here in Akron. I was not a good teacher. I was a terrible teacher. I'm gonna guess her side of the school was good because they always helped me try and be a better teacher, and it just didn't work out. I wasn't fired. Let's talk about that. I wasn't fired from Emmanuel, but I was not asked to come back either, and so, yeah.
Right. Well,
they found other stuff for me to do.
Well, actually, I've spent half my time in Ohio and the other half in Georgia. But the interesting thing is for me, going back to Mount Union, one of the things that I'm finding out now is that I wasn't exactly prepared for what I experienced when I first started teaching at Emmanuel Christian Academy. So although I really enjoyed my professors and I learned a lot, I wasn't exactly prepared for that moment. So, I kind of had to just wing it a lot of times. So I've learned quite a bit over the years, and I've perfected my craft.
So that's kind of a great segue into a piece of the conversation. You went to school for education, and you listen to the podcast. You know the vision of it and what we kind of talk about often, even with the name Dear White Teacher, where we're trying to reach white teachers who have to identify with and teach in more urban, Black and brown environments,
right.
Where that's the population. Going to Mount Union, which is a predominantly white institution, and going through the teaching track there, and I got to ask Elijah Hill, who was on the show a couple weeks ago, the same question. I know they taught you how to teach, but did they teach you how to build relationships with your students?
No. I never once learned how to build relationships with students. And so, unfortunately, my first year teaching at Emmanuel Christian Academy, I will never forget this moment, but one of my students, who shall remain nameless, said towards the end of the school year, "Miss Bell, do you realize that you've made every last child in this class cry at least one time?"
Wow.
And that really hit me hard, because as a teacher, you never want students to see you in a negative light. And so I had to really sit down and reflect, what can I do differently to build more positive relationships with students? And so I never, even at college, while I didn't receive training at college, I also didn't receive training over the years. It became one of those things where I had to venture out on my own. I would look up information online. I would do the research. I'm big on collaboration. So I would go to those teachers who had great relationships with students to say, well, what are you doing that I could maybe implement so that I can build, those relationships? So it really fell back on me to do whatever I needed to do to make that situation different.
So do you find that that's a lot of teachers' testimony, that there's no class, relationship building 101 or authenticity in the classroom? Is it all teaching, get up, use the text, make them pass the test?
So it really depends on what district you're in. The district that I was recently in, it just depends on what side of the district you're on. I'm on the south end of the district, so I'm with our kids, the Black and brown students. And so it's more of, because your test scores are low, I need you to focus on this information only, and I need you to get the data. We need these test scores to be up. So it really stifles your creativity, because you're stuck in a box. You have to focus on this. These are the only resources you can use. And so it then becomes, okay, well, how can I be slick enough to slide in whatever I need to, get the kids buy-in. And so again, it just depends on where you are. If there's a district that's doing well, you're not going to have those issues, and the students are able to not only learn the information, but you're not going to see those behavior problems either. And so it's really important at the college level, because now we're seeing the great teacher resignation, and then you have students that are not right, and you have students that are not even going into education because they see what's happening. And so for those that are going into education, what can we do for them so that they can understand, when you get out into the real world, this is what teaching really looks like. I was only taught how to teach. And so we need to, some sort of course needs to be implemented, and they need to actually be in those environments where, okay, here's a situation you may encounter.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for example, I remember having a student, every morning he would just come in and act out, and I pulled him to the side and I'm like, what's going on? Why are you acting out? Two things. One, he's tired. Second thing, he's hungry. And so that then caused me to think, okay, I need to dig into their lives. I need to get to know them better, to understand what's going on at home that affects how they behave in the classroom. I started buying snacks. I can't rely on the school district to provide the funds, so I'm going to make it happen on my own. So I started bringing in snacks for students, and then calling home. Well, hey, how are you doing? Just kind of getting to know the parents too, because that's the other thing. It's a 2-for-1 package deal. It's not enough to just get to know the students. You got to get to know the parents too, because I need their buy-in. Once I get their buy-in, they're more likely to help me keep this student on track in classroom. So it's really just one of those things where students in college that are currently going into education, they need to see real world experiences. We're not being tested over that on the praxis, you know what I mean? So,
and so even when I think about like student teaching lasts, what, a semester or a year?
Student teaching is usually for a year at this point. That first semester, it's more observation than anything. Trying to see how the teacher runs the class, how do you grade papers, things of that nature. And that second semester, it literally is just you teaching. And I think back to my student teaching experience, I still struggled because although I observed the first semester, that second semester, I still didn't have that interaction with parents that you would normally have once you have your own class.
So I don't know how the student teaching things work, but if you're at a school that sends you into a suburban district to student teach, but you end up in an urban district to teach, you still didn't get the experience that you needed. You didn't even get to observe what this is about to look like for you.
Not even close.
And so you get to school and like, like this is very different.
And the problem with that is when you experience culture shock like that, it causes those teachers who are usually first and second year teachers who aren't experienced, they're ready to quit. And I've seen a number of teachers quit because of that. Being a mentor teacher, I would often get student teachers coming in, and so I was able to coach them because of my personal experiences on what they might see or experience and how to handle that. But I specifically recall one of my student teachers that said, "Miss Bell, I can't do this." But I really tried to encourage her and told her, if you can teach here, you should be able to teach anywhere, because if you end up in one of those districts that's or a particular school that's a little rough, it really does prepare you for quite a few other places.
So how do we get the message to these, I guess, deans and the people that are at the top we're in Akron, so Akron University, Mount Union, these schools that all have education majors and departments. How do we get to them to let them know, like, hey, there's a piece that you're all are missing, especially this day and age. You have to be aware of the teachers quitting. Like, we're in some of the Facebook groups where they're like, I ain't never doing this again.
Ever again, right.
But again, that could be they weren't prepared, and so the culture shock of doing this, and now they've learned the culture and they put in the years, and they're just like, I'm not doing this. So how do we, is there a way to even get to the people that are running and putting these curriculums together for education majors to say, I almost think about it like this. We're big on teaching kids socio-emotional needs right now. How do we teach teachers that, not even so they can get it to the students, but for themselves to see this is what you're going to deal with? Right.
And so that's definitely an important piece. But I think one of the things that would have to happen is a group of teachers are just going to have to come together and take the initiative. Let's take a look at what the current education programs look like across the board at various universities and colleges, and get the input, get their input. Okay, what this is what we're seeing in the school system. What does your curriculum look like? What do you currently offer? And if nothing's in place, what can we do to change that? Because again, if those students aren't getting that experience, you're going to see more and more teachers not only quit in their first couple of years, but you're going to see less and less teachers go into education. And then what happens when you don't have enough teachers? Because I think now, just teaching in Atlanta, I know the school system that I was recently in, they've got 500 vacancies.
Wow.
There are school systems in Atlanta that have 800 vacancies.
And school starts in August.
School starts in August, and so a lot of times students are in classes that have subs or they don't have subs. And so it's important, it kind of reminds me of at the high school level when students fall so far behind, and it's like, it's got to start at the bottom. It's got to start at, implement those things at the beginning, kindergarten, so that they can carry that all the way up. But that's what it's going to take, a real dialogue about what's going on currently in education and digging deep into what each education program looks like and what we can do to implement, or at least, have conversation about what it really looks like.
So what are you hearing, even in school with some of the teachers that are disgruntled and whatnot, what are you hearing that needs to be changed, that are pushing them slowly out the door? Now, give me 2 or 3, because I'm sure it's a long list. Yeah, I know it's a long list.
I would say one of the top issues is behavior, student behavior, and lack of support in improving student behavior. That along with that, especially with the pandemic, you have kids now who have spent 2 years at home pretty much, and so that social piece was missing. And so, where I was teaching 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, everyone socially was 2 years behind, so they're far less mature, and you're having a lot of behavior issues. And so part of that problem is the top. In the district, if you have a specific school that has a lot of behavior issues, they have high suspensions, they need you to cut back on that. You miss out on funding when students, aren't attending the way that they need to attend. You tend to lose points for your school because attendance becomes an issue. And so student behavior definitely tops the list. Just to give you an example, one of the students at the school I was recently at put hands on a teacher. That student was back the next day. So when you have those types of instances occurring, your teachers are less likely to want to come to work. Right. And then everybody's, you've got subs, and if subs don't show up, everybody's got to split up. Or you stay with one class for the whole day. Another issue is testing. They test too much. I know my students were testing, I would say in 1 month, my students may have tested about 8 times. Wow. And so that includes your district tests. So your district tests, you're going to have at least 3 to 4 per month. That also includes the tests that I give to ensure that students are mastering the standards. And so testing definitely is part of the issue. I would say one other major issue probably would be time. There's not enough time to do the things that we need, especially with your planning period. When you're supposed to be giving a protected planning period, but you're called to cover Miss Johnson's class because she hasn't been coming to work, then you're not getting the work that you need to get done. So I would say those would be the top 3 issues that we're seeing. So
the podcast is called Dear White Teacher, so I'm sure you have white coworkers who have had experiences in the classroom, and I think I ask all of my guests this: do you find yourself in I heard you say mentor, but do you sometimes find yourself in a mentoring or in a space where you're asked how did you do that, or how can I do this better?
Absolutely. In the last 20 years, yes, every white coworker that I've had has asked, what is it that I need to know? And so that's where I make sure that, because I feel if a white teacher is genuinely interested in trying to figure out how they can build better relationships with brown and black kids, I feel obligated to share with them. There's not going to be any, there's no code switching. I'm going to give it to you real. I need you to understand this is what our culture deals with. This is what it's like, and so when Marcus is sitting here sleeping in your class and you're frustrated, you need to understand Marcus is at home taking care of siblings while mom is at work, and she's a single parent. So it's one of those things where, one, you have to figure out how to get the buy-in from that student. What could you do to get him interested in class, figure out his interests? So one of the things that I always do at the start of the year is a student interest survey. It's very detailed. I want to know everything about you. I want to know what you like to do. What sports are you involved in? What books do you like to read? What TV shows do you like to watch? Anything that I can learn so that I can somehow implement it into our lesson so that you're interested and you want to learn more.
And they immediately know you care about them.
They immediately know that you care. And from that point, because I'm asking about them, I also share about myself. The things that I'm interested in, what I love to do, because I want them to know I'm human. I'm big on respect and building a rapport and an environment where everybody feels comfortable. There's not going to be, you're not making fun of anybody. Everybody should be able to share whatever it is they want to share and be okay with that and be respectful of that, even if you don't agree. And so because I make that a habit every single year, I am one of those teachers where if a teacher is having an issue and such is acting a plum nut, they're coming into my classroom. And so I became that teacher where they're like, Miss Bell, can you keep such and such? Say less. I understand. Come on in. They don't act out for me.
Right.
They don't. I remember one of the students, and I didn't even have the student. This was a kindergarten student. Here I am, a 5th grade teacher. And this is a kindergarten student that they just could not control. And when I say could not control, I'm talking he was running out of the building.
Wow.
He would run around the school. He would take objects and toss them over the stairs from the 3rd floor. Doesn't matter who's walking, get out of the way. This is a kindergarten student. And I will never forget, I remember seeing him in the hallway one day, and I just reached out to, hey, aren't you such and such? Yeah. And so I took the time to just talk and try to get to know him and say, well, what's going on? Why is this happening? What causes you to do this? And from that point forward, because I made the attempt to just try to understand what he was going through, every time he ran out, he came directly to my room. And so it began. Now I have a kindergarten student in the 5th grade class, where it's like, what the issue then to me becomes, while I don't mind helping out, what are you all going to do to get to know this student so that we don't have those issues? So I don't want to become that teacher that houses all of the problem students, but we have to try to figure. You never get to teach your own, so we have to try to figure out ways to just get their buy-in and get to know them. And the main way I do that is a student interest survey.
So even growing up for me, I went to private school from kindergarten to 8th grade, public school 9th to 12, high school, the greatest high school on earth, Brookdale High School, 1040. I think I had in grade school 1 black teacher in 9 years. In high school, I had 2, 3 that were full time there, and 4, it keeps coming back. I have 4, only 1 man though, for sure. And then the 5th one that I'm thinking of ended up being a long-term sub because I remember our teacher was having a baby. So, not that we would have been paying attention back then, but building relationships wasn't that hard of a task back then. I remember with all of my teachers, there was some type of rapport. Like, we're talking over 20 years ago, behavior was not at all then what it is now. So what's the push now to say to not only white teachers but black teachers as well that you have to build relationships? Is it a parenting issue? Is it like teachers attempting to make up for what's lacking in the house? Like, what's driving that push to say you got to meet him where he at, and you start doing that by showing you're not just a number in my classroom seat that has to pass these tests, but I know James, and I know James's favorite color is blue, and I know his favorite sport is basketball. How did we get to this place where those things are imperative? Like,
so I think it's a combination of things. One of the things that I have noticed, parenting has changed. In my experience in the last probably 7, 8, 9 years, a lot of the parents are younger. And what I tend to see with the parents that are younger, they want to be friends with their children. Not only that, but a lot of the parents have been single parents. And so a lot of times when you have single parents, if they're working late, those children are taking care of other children in the house. And so you tend to see those children behaving as though they're adults. That's why they speak disrespectfully. Well, you think they're being disrespectful, but in their mind, I'm the adult
how I talk at home.
This is how I talk at home because I'm raising my siblings.
Yeah.
And so that has definitely become one of the issues that I've seen over the last few years. Parenting has just changed. A lot of the parents feel that when my child is at school with you, that's your issue to deal with. So you become the parent, you become the auntie, you become the counselor, whatever it is that those students need at that moment to try to control a situation. One of the other issues I think is teachers, a lot of teachers, as we said before, they just don't have the training, and so they're trying to just handle situations the best way they know how. And unfortunately, it just doesn't work because, again, we haven't really built that rapport with the student. We don't know about their background or the things that they've been through. But the main issue to me is parenting. Parents are completely different from what I grew up with. I think it just really has to do with your background. My parents growing up, my parents were strict. There was, my brother and I, we were involved in sports, education is your top priority, and you're gonna go to college. So that, because of my upbringing, I take a lot of what I've learned and apply it. And being a parent now, I have 2 kids of my own, I also think about how I would want them to be treated. What I want to see in a teacher. I think about how my teachers were growing up and what I didn't like and what I did like, and I try to take some of those characteristics and qualities and implement that. So, it just really depends on the situation and the background that plays a major role in whatever their environment is.
So I want to jump back to something you said that's kind of a cultural thing, in the black community. You said how you become auntie and, you become family. I'm even thinking like today, I called a lady who's very important to me. It was her 82nd birthday, but I call her Granny because I was so close to her grandchildren. She's not biologically anything to me, but she's Granny. That's what they call her. Not Grandma, she's Granny. I called her to say happy birthday today. That's like, if you don't know that, I can see people on the outside saying, oh, so is that your mom's mom or your dad's mom?
Right.
Neither. That's granny. It's not a long story, but in the black community, family does not mean blood.
Right.
And so I have, just personally, I have so many aunts, uncles, grannies, and just people who are family to me for whatever reason.
Right.
Even through education and, you know, mentors and things like that, where that becomes it's a compliment, you know.
Absolutely.
And so that, I feel like that's, you know, that could throw somebody off. Why is he calling that man uncle?
Right.
Whose brother is that?
Right.
Nobody's. You know, then now it's confusing.
Right.
But if you don't understand things like that, if you haven't been around that, that should be a course in class. Listen, somebody's gonna come to the school hollering his name that you don't know.
Right.
And that's not related, but just it's so many things that's ingrained into our culture that outside looking in, you're not going to know unless you know and do your homework and do some little, you know, do a little research and get to know the student. Even ask the student, so how's that your uncle? You know, you don't know what they might say, you know, but you know, is becoming familiar with even all the cultural nuances that come with us.
Right. Well, and the cool thing, one of the things I love about that is, because, like I said, because I really make an effort in getting to know the students, we develop that bond to where they may see me as an aunt. Now, they're still going to be respectful,
right.
But it's a beautiful thing when you can develop such a close bond with your students to where they will tell you any and everything. Right. I have so many informants. Over the years to where, you know, I'm going to know about everything that's going on. You know, if this particular student is having issues, I'm able to say, hey, you know, check in on them. Say, hey, you know, how you doing? How's things going? You know, I kind of heard through the grapevine this was going on. You want to talk about it? You know, and the beauty in that is that, again, they know that you care, and once they know that you care, they're more likely to open up to you. Whereas with another teacher, I'm not telling you a thing. I don't like you. I know you don't like me. And so not only that, I'm not going to do your work either. So I'm able to use that to my advantage, not only to get them to do work, but also it just gives me that information that I need to make sure my students, which I call my kids, that they're on point and everything's okay with them. So
you brought up another good point. I don't like you. You don't like me. And the unfortunate part is everybody shows up already with that notion.
Right.
Nothing has even transpired. It's first day of school. I see you. Oh, I don't like you. Kid to student. I mean, kid to teacher, teacher to kid. And then that just snowballs into, by the time October hits, we here.
I experienced that. Actually, this past school year, during open house, I met a student. Well, I'd already met the student because the previous year, her teacher was out. And so when her teacher was out, she was what they call farmed out. So that's when they split up the kids in you know, various classrooms. She always came to my class. I am known by students as being that teacher that does not play. You don't go to Ms. Bell's class and play. She is not having it. You better get your stuff done and be on point. And so I remember her trying me often, and I would just shut it down, and so naturally.
For some of our white teachers that are listening, what does trying mean?
So when someone's trying you, when a student is trying you, they are doing little things that press your button. So for example, you know, in Miss Bell's class, we're not talking while working unless it's a time to talk. And so you're not going to disrupt. And so don't lose where you're going. But Gabe is our camera video guy. Everybody say what's up, Gabe. You won't see him, he don't even want to be on here, but Gabe is over there. We got to do a show that's nothing but kid lingo. Yes.
Right? What, or even teacher lingo, cultural lingo. What's trying me?
Yes.
What does no cap mean? I had to ask that. It means you lying, right?
Right.
And there's so many other words that are like trigger words that are happening, getting thrown around the classroom, and you're listening. And so it's kind of even like, who can I ask what this word means,
Yes.
because they change so frequently. Cap just came out in the last. I don't listen to rap or nothing. I'm old. I can't take it. Okay.
I would say within the last maybe
was it from a song?
6, 7. It was from a song.
Okay.
But I even find myself, when I hear a student say something, I'm thinking, I don't know what that means.
Yeah,
I get on my
yeah.
phone and I'm like, what is
Yeah.
this? I'm getting old, and I'm trying to keep up
Right.
with that. But going back to trying, even taking out the cell phone, school policy.
Yeah.
Your phone comes out, Ms. Bell collects it, and I'm just taking it to the office
Yeah.
because we've had this conversation. So just little things here and there that student would do. And so I remember meeting her again the next year for open house. And she was like, oh, I said, I'm back, welcome back. And, but we ended up developing a really great relationship, great rapport, to where, I could say certain things. Okay, Miss Bell, I'll do this, I'll do that. And so again, it just goes back to you've got to try to figure out a way to meet the kids where they are, reach them, get to know them, and let them know that you care, so that you can, so that they're thriving, they're successful. Because if you don't, the whole year is a bust.
Thrown off.
It's thrown off. It's completely thrown off.
So, going back to some of your white coworkers, I'm sure you've seen some success stories.
Yes.
What were they doing? What kind of strategies were they using in their classrooms to be successful?
So one of the strategies that I noticed the teacher was using was getting to know the kids outside of school. That teacher would attend their sporting events, whether it's basketball, football, cheerleaders, somewhere in karate, just taking the time to see them outside of that school element. Because a lot of students think, oh, that's just my teacher. Yeah. I only see them here. That's all I need. That's all I need to see. But when they see you out of your element, and they see you, even seeing you dressed down,
yeah.
they see a completely different person. Yeah. It allows them to take that guard down. And then also getting to know the parents. Going to, let's say, for example, I know of a teacher that would go to just community events. If you're going to community events, because I used to be that teacher, I don't want to see kids outside of school. Yeah. But I realized how important it was as I began to grow as a teacher over the years. Meet them where they are. Yeah. If you can't meet them in school, what are they doing outside of school? Where do they go to church? What community events can you get involved in to get to know, those students and their families? I've had teachers go to their homes, do home visits, just checking in. Hey, how's things going? I know you were dealing with A, B, and C. What can I do to help you? Yeah. So that then again, it gets the parent buy-in. The parent knows that you care, because a lot of parents are dealing with so many issues that we don't know about that affects their child, and then ultimately affects the whole classroom environment. So, just little things like that, community events, going to their sporting events, even something simple as a phone call. Oftentimes, those students that misbehave, they're so used to you calling home to share negative information. Wow. They never hear anything positive. And I know for some teachers, it's like pulling teeth. There's something positive about that particular student. And so that's where observation comes in. It could be something as simple as, let's say they pass a test one day. Hey, what you did awesome. I knew you could do it. Yeah. Call home and relay that information. Hey, because I will never forget, I had a parent, let me just say, over the years, I have been cursed out multiple times. I believe it. But I had a parent who happened to say, Ms. Bell, you always call, it's always something negative. These teachers are always calling. I said, hey, I get it. That's not why I'm calling. I'm calling to let you know that your child succeeded today. Yeah. This is what they did. I'm seeing a change in their behavior. I'm seeing, improvement in just submitting assignments. Anything small to send home that positivity. When they're coming back, I see a difference, because the parent relays that information. Hey, Ms. Bell called. You did this. You know, and they say, I've had students thank me, thank you for calling.
And I was about to say,
it's always negative.
I hope that even doubles up to the next level where the parent uses that same information. Hey,
Right.
Miss Bell called. She said you did really good. I'm proud of you.
Right.
So now the student comes to school, hey, you proud of me? Well, guess what? My mom or dad told me they proud of me
Yes.
too. You might see a whole different kid the next day.
Completely different child, and I've seen that before. I remember one of the students that I taught, oh my goodness, used to work my nerves, and I could not figure out how to reach him. He constantly misbehaved, whether it was talking out, getting up, walking around, and I remember calling home and just constantly communicating negative information. It never dawned on me because again, at that time, I didn't have the training that I needed, even though I was about, I would say 7 years into teaching. But I said, you know what, I gotta figure this out because I can't teach if this child continues to disrupt. It was that bad. And I remember asking him one day, what do you like to do? He said, Miss Bell, I love telling jokes. I said, do you? And so right then and there, I decided, you know what? I said, I can't teach if you're constantly disrupting me. So let's make a deal. I know you love to tell jokes. If you let me get through this lesson from start to finish, I will leave the last 3 to 5 minutes of each class and I will allow you to tell school appropriate jokes.
You have to add in school appropriate.
School appropriate jokes, because we cannot have any
that
foolishness. It could go left
bad.
quick. And so I remember seeing his eyes they just lit up because he said, oh, Miss Bell, absolutely. You can tell jokes for the last 3 to 5 minutes of class if you let me get through this lesson and teach everybody else.
And you literally changed the definition of class clown.
You change it up because you allow them that space and that time to do what they love. That in return allowed me to teach the lesson. He was getting work done because if you don't do your work, I'm not going to be able to let you tell those jokes. You know, so
that's amazing.
I had to use that to my advantage to do my job. You know, and so we have to really, teachers have to really be as creative as possible to get the results that we wish for.
So that's been a lot of great information. Before we go, I want to touch on this book that is sitting here nicely. If you're listening to the podcast and not watching, the book is called Talking Points. I happen to know the author. His name is Brandon R. Scarborough. I know him pretty well. But I wrote this book because you've heard me mention Dreams Academy, which is our nonprofit organization that now mentors young men and women, but at the time it was just young men ages 10 to 15. And one of the things that I noticed was the disconnect between especially single mothers and their sons. And so I wrote this book at the time as a resource guide for single moms to connect with their sons. And so we talk about hygiene, race, sex, violence, and a number of other topics. And then it talks about how to sit down and have creative conversations with your sons so that it is not an awkward conversation. So it's not, all stifled, but really a way for your sons to open up and really talk about these things. Little did I know at the time when I wrote it that it would be even a greater resource guide for what we're doing now. So, when I'm talking about Dear White Teacher, this book is an excellent, and I'm not just saying it because I wrote it, but I really feel like it's an excellent guide to get kind of a viewpoint of what you may not see. You see, like we talked about, the young men coming to school sleepy and tired. But this book talks about some of those reasons of what's going on at home. I really advise that you get it to kind of see what mothers and families are dealing with their kids before they get to you. And I think it'll really help you understand at a cultural level and even give you some ideas on how to reach young men. So when you can see, so you see how their mothers are even planning or being creative and reaching their sons. And so visit the website brandonarscarborough.com. You can get the book there. Check it out. I really think it'll help you in your teaching strategies and planning, and just lend some ideas to what you got going, so you can have a successful classroom, especially with young black males. You have anything you would like to add to that?
Yes.
Sure.
Actually, I will speak to this because I do have the book, and I can vouch for this. I purchased this book, read it from start to finish, and being a single parent, co-parenting, sometimes it's hard, and there are things that I don't know, and when I don't know them, I go directly to this book, and so I can definitely say I have been able to use the information in this book and implement it just with my own son, and that helps to build our relationship as well, because I have all the tools and the resources and just all the words that I need to get through to him and help him understand what he's going through. And so as far as this book, this is everything for me, so it's helped out tremendously because being a single parent can be difficult.
Thank you. I'm gonna let the young man that wrote it, I'm gonna let him know you said all those nice things about the book. So listen, thank you so much for coming. I think we had a great conversation. I think the people that listen will be blessed by it and be able to take something from it. Tell the people, if you want to, where they can find you, social media wise. I know I've learned the trick of teachers changing their name during the school year so that the kids can't find them. I'm hip to some of y'all.
Yes.
I be looking for people sometimes, like, why can't I? Oh, school's back in. Y'all using middle names and rapper names. And
Yes, and you will never be able to find me under Cheree Bell. You have to know me personally, and so you can find me on Instagram. It is Ree, and that's REE _ Denise 81, and again, that's because I'm a teacher. I don't want students to find me, so you can find me there on Instagram.
I don't want you getting cussed out online too.
Right. And then just to add to that, as far as inspirational quote, things of that nature, one of the things that I would love to tell teachers, Bishop Joey Johnson, I was a member of the House of the Lord while living here in Akron, and so one of the things he's always said is relationships are everything.
Yes.
I cannot say that enough. I completely agree with that. And we have to do what we need to do to reach our kids. One other thing I will say is listen to understand. A lot of times as adults, we want to do all the talking and we don't listen to the kids. And I remember on that last podcast, we talked about kids having a voice. We need to listen to understand so that we know what our kids are going through, what they're thinking, so then we can, decide what it is we need to do to reach them.
Bishop came up on another podcast, and I think it was that quote, like that's how big that message that he sends around the city is. I'm not a member of his church or anything, but those words have stuck with me since I've seen him pushing that message for so many years. That's been his motto, that relationships are everything. And so it's funny that comes up again. So thank you again. Listen, we're on TikTok now. Get there, dear_white_teacher. Just talking about little topics from the podcast and ways we can help. Our goal is to build community, build safe spaces where we can have conversations. I mentioned it in the last couple episodes. If you have questions, text us 330-958-4148. It can be totally anonymous. I want to get to the place where we're in the podcast and we're answering questions and we're having conversations with teachers that have creative answers for what it is that you have dealt with and will deal with. And so Instagram, same thing, dear_white_teacher. Follow us there. You'll see little clips from the podcast. Download the podcast on every platform that I know is existing. And so Apple, Spotify, all those great things. Subscribe on YouTube, Dear White Teacher. We're keeping the name synonymous so you can't miss it. And so just find us. Share it with a friend. Share it with another teacher. Share it with another educator, administrator, anybody. We're here to help. I'm looking forward to having great conversations all across the country as we continue to do this. Shout out to my man Gabe, because I don't think I ever did that. Gabe is here. He sets this up. He don't want no fanfare or nothing, but he does an excellent job, and so I'm grateful to him. So I felt like I should finally say that to everybody. So everybody give a great shout out to Gabe. That's a wrap, Dear White Teacher. See you next time. Thanks so much.